want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
That's right. We're just real men.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Real Are we
got some buffering going on. We're on the air, but we got some buffering going on your end again. But that's all right, because we are the Madmen Masculinity. That man right there is Kirk M. Samuels, and I am Jason B. Kendrick. And tonight, we had a request, really. This is a question we get quite a bit. Where have all the good men gone? Or where can you find good men?
For real.
It's a deep subject. We're going to
hear
go. Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Right on.
Where you at?
Right on. This is good stuff, man. You know, this is a question that we get asked a whole bunch, man. This is a question that comes for and the whole question came up, man.
Yeah, it comes up quite a bit. I mean, almost any time we do a group event, and especially when we do like the singles events like In the Loop, the question comes up, and I get it. You know, there's a lot of ladies that want to know where all the good men are. We have several answers to that question. I think I'll dive right in. I think the biggest issue nowadays, and it's not just towards men or women, it's both, is that a lot of us are terrified of relationships nowadays. There's not any real good evidence of long-term relationships anymore. I mean, first time marriages, divorce is 50%, second time it's 67%, third marriages are 80%. So there's not a lot of faith in relationships anymore. And I think there's many reasons. The war on American families, the war on natural healthy masculinity. There's also just the ubiquitous options out there, social media, online dating, all these different things. Used to be that you whoever you ended up with had everything to do with proximity. You know, you lived in the same little town, you lived in the same village, and that's where you found your mate. And now we got too many options, and people aren't getting serious about relationships anymore.
Yeah. You know, man, I think there's a whole lot of things that kind of factor into the you know, into the mix, I guess, into the mathematical equation of it all. And I think you know, I mean, it's a viable question in terms of, you know, when we hear this from where all the good men, where all the good guys, and you know, it's one of those things that I think, you know, maybe you can't see the forest for the trees. I mean, maybe, just maybe, they're everywhere, and so, you know, and so you think they're nowhere. I mean, I personally think, man, I know tons of good men. I know tons of good single men. I know a lot of great single men that would be a catch for any woman that's out there. And so if I know them, then the question, and I know they're out there, and I know they're trying to date, but if I know them, so the question is, you know, how come women say where are all the good men? Like, well, basically, how come women can't find them?
Probably because they're hiding from a lot of the women nowadays. I know most of the guys that we talk to, like I said, they're gun shy, they're afraid, they don't want to be me too'd. They've probably been through a divorce, they may have kids, and so they may not want to go through that same sort of heart tearing event of having your kids taken away from you, having, you know, being divorced and all those different things. And so they're more than likely just they want to have serious relationships, but they're also very timid about getting into them because, you know, they've been burned before. So a lot of times, you know, we see guys who are just they would like to find the right woman, and they're just not sure where to find her, really. And a lot of times what we see is, and I see it all the time on like dating apps and different things, where a woman's like, I don't need a man to take care of me. And what a good man hears is, well, what do you need me for? And so we had a lady out in the event the other night asked, well, how come when I go out to bars, guys only want to, have sex with me, or they want to just take me home. And it's like, well, what are your boundaries? What are people treat you how you allow them to treat you. So if that's what your only thing you're offering, or only thing that it seems like you're offering, that's the only thing they want. So maybe you say, okay, well, we can hang out. And I think Kara's answer was great, because her fiance asked her, like, their first time hanging out, like, what you want to go out and make out? And she's like, sure. First, take me out on a date, take me to dinner. Let's have some conversation. Let's get to know each other, and then maybe we can make out. And so sometimes it's a two-way street. Like, yeah, you can find the good men, but are you setting up boundaries, and setting up the necessary steps for that good man to know you're a good woman, and that it's not just a fling?
Yeah. I wonder if good men, quote unquote, and maybe it's even worth unpacking what's a good man. I mean, but I think, what are the real good men, not what the fairy tale fantasy good man is, but I think with the real good men that are out there, you know, may not want to be bothered with the current dating model, or the current modern,
Mhm.
modern
Mhm.
feminism,
Yep.
dynamic. Maybe the good men, the ones that are good, maybe like, yeah, no thanks. I'm gonna take my
Yep.
good and I'm gonna go play golf, or I'm gonna go do my thing, or I'm gonna go whatever. So but either way, I think it's a great jumping off point. What is a good man?
Well, I mean, nowadays, a good man is a man who is conscientious. He has his own set of values, morals. He's got his own job, probably his own house. I mean, he's got his own car. So, I mean, he's taking care of himself. But he's also, like I said, conscientious, and has his own moral system, which means he has a path that he lives by. He has his own purpose. And I think what I see, and to your point, a lot of times, a lot of the boss babe kind of feminist narrative ladies that we see out there don't know what a good man is, or they wouldn't see a good man and actually be attracted to him. Because I've even had a lady tell me, she's like, I want a man who does what I want. That's not a good man. A good man's going to have boundaries, and he's going to tell you no. And that's the whole point, is that we as men and women need to have a balance, and have somebody who we're growing with. And so somebody who checks us, somebody who we have deep conversations with, somebody who's not always going to just do what we want, but they're going to, check us from time to time. And a lot of good men are finding that if they attempt to set boundaries or check a woman, they're like, next, they're ghosted, because he's not doing what she wants him to do all the time.
I think I think to start off with what's a good man, I think if you're if I if I was a woman, if I was giving advice to a woman anyway, I'll put it that way, to start off with, to start off with the mentality of what a good man is going to do for you is probably where you make your first mistake. Because a good man, and I think a lot of it is when you listen to the modern feminist narrative, when you listen to the fem anthems that are out there on the radio waves and all that kind of stuff, it's a really narcissistic view of femininity, where it's all about you, and it's all about, it's, thank you next, and if you don't meet my need, and I'm this, and then you convince yourself that you're a rare breed and that you're somehow special, and maybe that's why, no guy, because, well, I'm so above this, and maybe what you're presenting doesn't attract the man that you think, you want, or you think you're looking for. But the modern feminist movement, is about me. I mean, it really is about me, and it's about for a man that's going to meet my needs. And I think when you show up like that, you're showing up with the wrong heart. You're showing up with the wrong, and you're going to come up with the wrong guy. You're going to come up with a guy at the bar that just wants to hit it and quit it. You're going to come up with, with the guy that, that doesn't meet you kind of where you say you want to be met at. So I think when you start off with that kind of modern feminism, dynamic, you're already set up to fail. And so, but it's like, from a woman's perspective, it's like, yeah, but well, where do I get the opposite of that? Well, Mad Men and Masculinity. I mean, you surround yourself by a bunch of single women, you're destined to be a single woman. You surround yourself by a bunch of fem anthems, I call them, that tell you you're special and you're this and that, and then you're destined to not find that quote unquote good man, because that quote unquote good man, yeah, he's looking to serve, but I mean he's not looking to he's not looking to right out of the gate anyway. He's definitely not looking to come in and you haven't earned anything and you expect everything. He's not looking for that. And so I think the starting point is not the modern feminist view that Hollywood and the music industry and movies and all that kind of stuff, portray that it should be.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, a good man who has his stuff together, who has something to contribute to your life and that you would want in your life is looking for a woman to do the exact same thing to contribute to his life. And so if you're coming across with a lot of the feminist narrative of I'm a boss babe and I don't need no man, well, he already sees just more work and more problems. He's not seeing somebody who's going to add to his life. I think that's where a lot of times it gets misconstrued or gets skewed because guys can see a lot of times, in the bar or out in the dating world, like, okay, well, I see this girl, she's attractive, but I can tell she's kind of got the entitlement, specialness thing that we talked about before. And so that just looks like more work and more problems. And it doesn't look like she's in a service mindset or a mindset of coming together to build a relationship. And so I'm not even going to bother. And a lot of times you get nexted, ladies, before he even comes up to talk to you because he's kind of analyzed the situation and gone, I don't see any benefit to me. And to be really honest, ladies, if a man can get a maid and a cook and a prostitute, what's he need you for? And these are the questions you got to ask yourself because if you're coming in with this, I don't need no man, but a man who I want every man to do everything that I want and he has to serve me. Well, where's your service mindset? Where do you bring it to the table for him? Because he can survive on his own pretty well. So if you're not bringing something to add to his life, then he's just going to next you.
Yeah. I think, by the way, we got comments coming in, anybody that's watching us live here. Our partner in crime, super producer, Nikki's kind of throwing out some questions from the feminine perspective. I appreciate that for sure. And so, but if a guy shows up, wanting to hit it and quit it, he's already nexted you. He's already seen you as only having one level deep of value. And he's not looking for anything else because he doesn't see you having any other value than that. And I'm talking good man. I'm talking, if good guy walks up and he doesn't see, that building something together kind of thing, then yeah, to your point, he's going to turn the page to a degree, because it's not him coming in to build you a relationship. It's both of you coming together. Here's what I have to offer in this whole thing. And no, you're not the table. No, I mean, guys, today, we've learned how to cook. We've learned how to take care of ourselves. We learned how to make a home. We've learned, just like a lot of women have learned how, a lot of things too, adapting to the culture. A lot of men have as well. And, and so, the priorities kind of have shifted and the game has kind of gone up and down. And, it's said that women control access to sex and babies, but men control access to relationships. And so if you're looking for a relationship, then you need to show up with a relationship kind of mentality. And that relationship kind of mentality is here's what I'm looking to bring. Here's what I have to offer you, good man. If you see a good man, and they're good men all around you. I think every woman has a good man in her life. He's probably in her friend zone. Because she probably saw him and either she said, I don't want to mess this up. I like this guy. I'm going to keep him around. So I'm going to put him in the friend zone. I'm going to park him over there, or, he doesn't have the bad boy quality or he doesn't, have all this other kind of stuff. Why? Because he's a good man. He's not looking to use and abuse you, hit it and quit it, whatever. But I think most women have good men around them, but, those good men are in the form of friends or exes, or there's probably a good man in your past. And so, you got to ask yourself, like, okay, well, why is that? And some of that is self-work.
Yeah. And one of the things that, we don't want to continually bash the feminist narrative because the feminist movement was a good thing. It needed to happen. But what has happened is from the feminist movement is that it's given ladies lots of options. You have all the options in the world now. You have all of the rights and privileges that you could ever want. But at the same time, men didn't get any more options, they got more obligations. For a man, he's obliged to, he is required to sign up for the draft at 18, and he can go to jail if he doesn't, and that's just so that he can vote. A woman doesn't have that obligation. When it comes to children, a woman has the option and the right whether she keeps or loses a child. Man has the obligation either way, whether she decides to keep it if he wants it or not, and he's on the hook to pay for it. If the man gets married to a woman and she decides to leave, now he has the obligation of those children, the child support, the alimony, the house payment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there aren't the same government systems for men who get divorced or they lose their wife and become single parents. So there's lots of options that have come out of the feminist narrative that are great for women, but we as men we haven't had the same scale of options thrown our way. And so that's why we say it looks like more work. So especially if you're divorced and a single mother and you want to get into a serious relationship, you got to look at what you're bringing to the table. You got to look at how you're going to make his life easier, because you're already coming with a lot more obligations, a lot more responsibilities that he may or may not need. And for a lot of guys, they get to a point and they go, I would rather just be single, because not only is it just easier and safer, but it's also more peaceful. And I have the rights and opportunities to keep more of my money and more of my time and more of my energy. So that's why we say it can be hard to find a good man and get him to commit to you, because of all the obligations that he already has, all the responsibilities he already has. And knowing that if he brings you into his life as his partner, you're going to be another 3 to 5 or 10 more obligations, responsibilities. And so that's why we say, what are you bringing to the table? How can you make his life easier? How can you make his life more peaceful and more and be more supportive? Because to the point before, if he can get a cook, if he can cook for himself, if he can get a maid, if he can get a prostitute, what does he need you for? And what men want is emotional stability. They want emotional support. And if he doesn't see that from you, I mean, he's just going to say, I'm good on my own.
And if you, I mean, peace, man. I mean, peace, 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 man. If you can't be that man's peace, then you need to peace out. I mean, or he's gonna peace out. I think, I think the feminist movement that happened and is happening is, inherently could be a good thing. I think where it went off is equal. We've had this conversation before too. Equality got confused with sameness, and being equal and being same are two totally different things. And so whereas, okay, we want to be equal, but then as we want to be same, but really, do you really want to be same? Because if you want to be same, then you shouldn't have any issues with paying on the first date. If you really want to be same, then you shouldn't have any issues with opening a car door. I mean, you shouldn't have a lot of the issues that that still exist. You can't have a hypergamous mentality and at the same time a sameness mentality. You can have a mutual service mentality. We mutually serve one another. Okay. But even then, that maybe that's equal, but not the same. What does that look like? It could look differently in both ways. And so, but you can't say same when, if you come in, this is just facts. This is just reality. Okay. It sounds maybe bad to some people, but this is reality. If you're coming into a relationship with kids as a single mom, already, however many kids you have, he is that plus one on your priority list. But you probably want to be absolutely number one on his priority list, even if he has kids. I mean, you may not want to admit it, but no woman comes in saying, man, he's got, and maybe that's why there's a stigma with guys and kids, that doesn't necessarily exist with women and kids. But you can't, you come into the picture, if he got 3 kids, you don't automatically think, well, okay, I need to make sure I'm fourth. No, you want to be number one. And so that the confusion between the equal and the same, got thrown in there. And so, and so I think now kind of things are a little bit upside down. And I think, like I said, a lot of good men, are like, okay, I'd rather not. I'd rather opt out, because I don't want to have to be, a passive, wimpy man because women have become more masculine. So a lot of good men, the good men that women say they want, which is a leader, a masculine man. I've never met a woman that said, I want a beta man, even if she's a ball buster feminist. I've never met one that said, oh, give me a nice softie. Give me like a soft serve, like some ice cream. I've never met a single one of y'all. If you're out there, please say hi, because I'd like to meet you. We'd like to study you down in Area 51, all that kind of stuff. But so when you come into the picture and you saying, I want a masculine, strong, leading, providing man, then there are some things that come along with that don't fit into the modern feminist narrative, because it's gone from being equal to being the same.
Yeah, I mean, what we see all the time is a lot of the modern kind of feminist boss babe ladies want traditional relationships, but they're not traditional women. They want the traditional man who protects and presides over the home and everything, but then they're not fulfilling that traditional role of supportive and feminine and loving and nurturing. They're coming in with, you need to do this and you need to do that. And it's just this whole nother list of to-dos. And we keep seeing that. And that's why we did the You're Not Special episode, a couple episodes ago, because we keep seeing this specialness mindset. I'm special, so you need to jump through 8 million hoops to even get my attention. And any good man who knows what his worth is not going to be jumping through hoops for you. He's going to be looking to see, he'll come and approach you maybe, and then he'll pull back and wait to see if you approach back. But if you're constantly making him jump through hoops and chase, he doesn't have time for that. He's got his own career. He's got his own life to live. So if you meet somebody that you want to have a traditional marriage or a traditional relationship with, you got to try to be a traditional woman so he can be a traditional man, because you can't have two masculine entities in the same household. That just becomes competition and argument and fight. And I get it. That's what you've been taught. You're like, okay, all your life you've been told, put your career first. Don't worry about kids. You can still get a man. Don't worry about whether the first one works out. You can divorce him, take his money, and then go find another man. Well, the reality is men are getting wise to the game. They're getting burnt enough that they're not playing that game anymore. So you really got to look at, what is it you're offering? What are you bringing to the table? And how can you make his life better? Because if he's a good man of internal value, of self-worth, he's going to be critiquing you. He's going to be looking at what is going to be beneficial in this for me versus what is, just another obligation and responsibility that I got to take on.
Now, everything that you just said, I bet you, and this kind of goes to Nikki's question, like in terms of maybe they judge too quickly. Maybe I think maybe this might touch on that a little bit. But you might have heard, if you're a lady out there, if you're a woman, you might have heard everything that JBK just said. You might think, I want that, like that's who I am, and I want a traditional this and that, and I want to be his piece. I want to be all these other kind of things, but that's in there, and I need him to like dig all of that out of me. Like I need him to do whatever and give me time and give me, put up with all of my feminine is in there, but I can't help it that the world makes me masculine, and I need him to deal with my masculine in order for him to get my feminine. Doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, because you're asking for something up front that you haven't earned in terms of his level of commitment to you. You want him to put up with all your doo-doo, so that he can get to the goal. And it doesn't work that way. It's like, no, you need to at least offer him some breadcrumbs along the journey, but up front, and who that you want to be. And yeah, the natural response will be, well, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want somebody to take advantage of that and all that kind of stuff. Part of that is the game. That's just the name of the game. We could all get hurt when we put ourselves in vulnerable positions, and putting yourself in a dating relationship position is vulnerable. As you get into a relationship, the deeper you go, the more vulnerable you get. And so, getting hurt, is part of it. That's the risk. You are putting chips in the middle of the table, but ideally you put chips in the middle of the table because you got a strong hand in front of you. Right. And so you don't just, unless you just throwing your bluff, I don't know, but either way, you gotta come with who you want up front, because good man is out there doing things, and good man has options. By the way, good men that got their stuff together, they have options of women. They have options for, even if a guy, if we want to just reduce it to sex, for example, a good guy can get sex. Like he doesn't need, that's why, that's why guys will be players. That's why guys right out of the gate, because there are women that, will see a good guy and they'll give it to him. I mean, and so a good guy doesn't need you for all of that basic stuff these days. And so you got to come out of the gate with, here's what I have to offer. And to me, I would recommend maybe that's not here's what I have to offer in terms of sex. Here's what I have to offer long term in terms of peace. Here's what I have to offer in terms of, mutual service kind of thing. But to show all that kind of stuff, and at the same time, as we talked about with Kara, staying in your lane as well, you can't not value your physical appearance, but want somebody that values theirs. You can't want Don Juan to walk in the door with, in shape, low body fat percentage, gym rat, all this other kind of stuff, got all of his poop in the group. But at the same time, you're not there. I mean, that doesn't, if that guy walked in, would you match that energy? Would you match that vibe? So those kind of things don't line up. But you gotta, when that guy walks in, I mean, you got to be willing to offer some stuff that, to Jason's point a little bit earlier, that he can, with the debit card.
Yeah, I mean, to what you were saying before, I mean, what we hear a lot is, well, I'm forced to be in my masculine because I got to work, I got to take care of the kids, I got to take care of the house, and if he will show me the safe space, if he will be the masculine man, then I will. Well, a good man isn't trying to climb that mountain for you. Plus, if he, like to Kirk's point, if he's working on himself, if he's fit and everything like that, and then you're just like, well, you just need to accept me just the way I am. Well, it doesn't work that way because he's working, you need to be working too. And that's the hard part, that we hate to tell a lot of single moms that if you don't have time to invest in your man, in a new man or a new relationship, just don't. Just don't waste your time, because if you want a good man, you need to have time and energy to invest in that good man. And I know we all have different priorities. We have, so many obligations nowadays with bills and work and kids and everything else. But you sometimes have to go, well, if I don't have the time and energy, maybe it's not the time for me to find that good man. Maybe it's not the time for me to try to get in a relationship. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but sometimes that's the truth of it. Because if you don't have something to offer him, if you don't have something that isn't going to scare him off, where he just looks at you and goes, well, that's a whole lot more work that I don't need to put on my plate, then maybe it's not time to jump into that pool. Maybe, hang out with your girlfriends, hang out with your guy friends, and wait till the kids are out of the house, or wait till you have some more time. I mean, it's a hard truth to swallow, but a lot of times a good man is looking very logically and literally. He's basically doing a spreadsheet in his head about, obligations, responsibilities, and what's in it for me. Because any person, man or woman, it doesn't matter. Any person who has self-worth is going to want to know what's in it for them. What are they getting out of this equation? It's got to be a win-win scenario. And a lot of times, men out there, especially a lot of guys who have been through the ringer, have been burned before, their antennas are up, their searchlights are out. They're analyzing the situation, and they can tell pretty quickly whether it's going to be a win-win situation or if it's just another to-do list, another obligation or responsibility. Because we did it on the single mom episode. I'm gonna repeat it again. For single moms, you have to realize that what you're asking of a man coming into that relationship with you and your kids is you want him to take 100% of the responsibility with none of the authority. He cannot, discipline your kids, even if you say, yeah, he can. Most of the time, it comes down to you and your ex and your family on that side with the kids that want to be involved in their raising, and you bring this guy in, he's just an outsider, but he has 100% responsibility of taking care of those kids, providing for those kids. So it's something to keep in mind when you're like, well, I'm doing all the things I've been told to do. Why can't I find a good man? Well, maybe it's because you have a huge list of responsibilities that he may not want to take on right now.
Yeah. I know we're bringing this plane in for landing a little bit here, but it really just hit me that, part of the modern feminine culture, I think it distorts kind of your expectations, it distorts your mindset. And I think, if good man shows up, he's probably to something to you. And he's not gonna, he probably won't look like you expect him to look. I mean, he may not be the age, he's probably older than you are. He probably, if you take your body mass index and subtract 5%, that might be his. I mean, give or take. He may not be the race that you think he is. He may not be, he may not have the high-end job. He may not be a 6 feet, well, all that kind of stuff. He may not be all that kind of stuff, but when he shows up, he's a good man nonetheless, and he'll love you to death. That's why I say a lot of them are in the friend zone, because he'll love you and take care of you, but he was probably too whatever, and that's how he ended up in your friend zone. But he probably won't show up looking like modern feminism says he's supposed to look. He won't look like the hero guy in a Tyler Perry movie, or Jerry Maguire or Matthew McConaughey or whatever. Have you seen Matthew McConaughey's wife? I mean, like, I mean, he's probably not going to show up looking like some impression that your friends or Hollywood or music industry or whatever told you he's probably supposed to look at. And so, good men are around you everywhere. If you want to know where some good men are, we can introduce you to some circles of people where there's some good men. And it's up to you to not poo-poo it and to kind of get in and fit in and swim in the pond. But you can't sit on the beach, talking about where are all the fish. I mean, you got to get in and you got to do some of that stuff. So anyhow, but yeah, that from my perspective, man, I think that's a good landing spot for me.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a little history lesson real quick. I mean, back 100 years ago, maybe a little more than 100 years ago, relationships are about survival, and we naturally fell into our natural masculine and feminine roles. Women took care of the kids and the sewing and the food making, and men went out and hunted and farmed and did all those things. Granted, back then we were all around the same house. The man was near the house. Well, nowadays men are pushed further and further away from the house, further and further away from their kids, and now all because of the feminist movement, because of all these different things, ladies have more and more options. And I think the options are skewing, to Kirk's point, your perspective of how to keep a relationship, how to do a relationship. Because honestly, nowadays, we actually can have relationships for love. Back in the day, when it was survival, it was about survival. So it didn't matter if you loved each other. It was matter if you did your job, if he did his job, then you guys would stay together. So now we have all these options. So you need to be very clear about what is important to you and how can I get that and what do I need to provide to a man nowadays, because it's not about survival. It's not about just fulfilling these roles. Now we don't even know what a good man is. We don't know what a good woman is. We don't know what masculine roles are, feminine roles are, because it's all been mixed up and it's in this weird wash right now. So you got to find somebody and then go through that battle, go through that fight of figuring those things out together. And then you need to burn your ships. You need to say, we're going to do this. We're going to stay together. There are no exit strategies, because there's too many. Well, if this doesn't work out, I can just go get a divorce. If this doesn't work out, I can get on social media and find somebody else. If this doesn't work out, and that's why there's lots of upset, sad, lonely, single mothers out there, because they thought they had all these options and they didn't look at the big picture, and they didn't actually stay with the person who they had the kids with, who had the most investment, who had the most, opportunity and responsibility to stay with them, who had the most onus to stay with them. And so it's something to keep in mind that nowadays, maybe all these options is what's making you unattractive to good men, what's making you lonely and stuff. So it's a hard pill to swallow, but I mean, that's why you watch us. That's why we're here. We're going to give you the hard pill and say, enjoy it.
And I know this is triggering to a lot of women. I know hearing this stuff is tough. I mean, because it's outside of your comfort zone. But a good man is going to require you to get outside of your comfort zone. So, I mean, I know this is, but again, we're not here to rub your belly and pat you on the head. We're here, trying to give you some truth from a man's perspective, because we want you to be successful. And there's cognitive dissonance because it's different than what the world is telling you. But we're here. We're on your side. We want you to be in the best place you can be. We want you to experience love. We want you to find these good men. And sometimes that requires a little bit out of the comfort zone. And so we love you. We love all of y'all. If we're talking to you as a woman or you as a guy, I mean, we love all of y'all and we want you to be successful.
Yeah, we want the best for you. That's why we give you the harsh truth bombs that probably your girlfriends and the other people aren't giving you. So, I mean, that's why you tune in. You're not going to like a lot of what we say, but if you sit with it and let it sink in a little bit, maybe those little pearls of wisdom will help you to get what you actually want in the future. Yeah. And on that note, before we make everybody mad and get canceled, Madman, out.